Welcome to the Man Cave Classroom in 810, and yeah, we're going to talk about alcohol being banned, but I guess the real big theme is how do you get around rules and laws, really?
Yeah.
And I think
you show me a law. Show me a law. I'll show you 50 people who are finding ways to break that
and
law.
I think we can all, whether you're watching or us, we can all find our ways around like breaking the laws.
You know, put it in context that middle school students could understand.
Oh, yeah.
You know, hey, no cell phones in school.
Right.
You know, you can't have your AirPods in your ear. I mean, you guys find very creative ways, you know, to get around the laws of the school.
And when we were their age,
Yep.
I mean, I was not a choir boy. I was not on the honor society or whatever. I'm a reformed punk, I can tell you. Let's start with this political cartoon before we give out way too much about our past.
Yeah, we're jumping back, you know, to a couple units ago of the progressive era. You know, we analyzed this already.
We did, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
This was the noble experiment of prohibition, that in the early 1900s, alcohol abuse, alcoholism, domestic violence, all of these societal problems are going on. An organization is on the rise. We'll call them the Dries.
Yes.
You know, led by the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Let's ban alcohol, the manufacturing,
Yep.
sale,
Sale,
transportation.
yep.
Let's ban it
Here we
in
go.
this country,
Yep.
and we actually passed the 18th Amendment of the United States Constitution.
And this is on the books for about like 13 or 14
Yep.
years. So, you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, I guess as we move forward, yes, this was a law. The enforcement, how strictly it was enforced and where it was enforced, it could depend anywhere within the United States. In certain states, it was probably strictly enforced, and in other states, they were probably doing this.
And in many of the states, the people who were supposed to be enforcing the law were also the ones trying to break it.
Exactly. So the United States has voted dry, and this was something, you know, even like leading up to the alcohol being banned. This was something that started really in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Gains momentum in the 1900s, and there were even politicians like Theodore Roosevelt himself who didn't want to be photographed doing two things: one, playing tennis because that was a rich boy sport, and you know, for tough dudes like him, that was kind of seen as the wimpy sport. And the other thing that he liked to enjoy after a tennis match was drinking a mint juleps. He didn't want to be photographed actually drinking alcohol because politically he knew it might hurt him. He knew that there were people that were against it, so he didn't want to be seen as drinking or siding with these people who did not want it.
You know what's actually funny about it is how the media at the time respected that.
Yeah.
And didn't photograph him.
Yeah.
Where today,
Exactly.
the media would do anything and everything they can to get a picture of any politician
Right.
doing something.
They had photoshopped the
deemed-
drink in his
deemed
hand.
scandalous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That is kind of interesting. So the United States is going to be voted dry. You know, we look here, January 16th, 1919. This is a momentous day, and this is what happens. So when we come to Prohibition, I guess we can go over some notes before we get into the fun stuff about evading the law. You know, this is going to be the prohibition, the ban, manufacture, transportation of liquor anywhere in the United States. You get stuck with the word prohibition on a test, just remember prohibit, and that kind of help you with the rest of the way through. Going back to the political cartoon, the Women's Christian Temperance Union worked hard to ban alcohol, protesting, putting out literature, putting out information, you know, similar to what they were doing, what women were doing when it came to getting the right to vote. I think the push for the right to vote, they were much more, how should I say, energetic. They had much more of an
Yes.
argument for it as well. So then all of a sudden this amendment now bans alcohol. So we now have a law on the books. So to get into how people get around laws, we have some pretty good examples today. You know, how do you get around laws? And this is a funny one. I'm glad you found this.
Yes, this gentleman, I think this was here on Long Island.
This is the HOV lanes.
This gentleman,
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for? Commuting
yeah.
to work, wanted to get to work faster, so he put a mannequin in the front seat of his car just so he could drive in the HOV lane.
Very clever.
Yes, very clever.
I don't know how the cop stops him. I mean, how do you see it going at that speed?
I don't know. I honestly don't. You know, sometimes, like, I actually got pulled over once for driving in the HOV lane.
Sure, I've done it too.
Because, but my front seat was empty,
Oh.
but I had the kids in the back.
Oh.
So the cop pulled me over, You know, because he actually rode next to me, looked over at me, and said, "There's no one in the front seat." Got behind me, pulled me over. I literally
really looked suspicious.
Right, I rolled down the windows. I rolled down the windows as he's walking up. He saw the kids. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You can go." But this guy, you know, he's just like, you got me.
This is inspiring. This really is. I mean,
Creative.
He dressed her up.
Creative.
Which is a whole special kind of creepy. Probably gave her a name, you know. But I mean, this is really inspiring.
It was like that the Will Smith movie, I Am Legend. Remember, he'd go into the video store and there were all the mannequins. He'd talk to them.
Yeah. So here's another one too. When you talk about like evading the law, and again, you know, you wonder how what is this Waze?
This is Waze.
Where it'll identify where police officers
Police
are.
officer ahead. You know what I do? when I'm driving with Waze,
I'm gonna put different names down here.
I keep hitting that there's police officers ahead. So the people behind me will get alerts that police officers are ahead.
So,
Just
it's like I don't know. It's like, are you a good guy at that point or a bad guy?
No, I'm
But
not.
this is pretty funny. It's like, hey, you can navigate. You can get from one place to the
You know,
other.
and this almost goes back to our time period growing up when there were radar detectors that you could have in the car that could detect
flashing a light,
Yeah.
or those radar detectors, which were illegal but weren't really strictly enforced
Yep.
because they were made. I mean, you know, if this is so wrong, why is it out there? You know, again, not taking sides. Of course, when it comes to the movies, everybody has done this. You've done your fair share of bootlegging. It's another reason why I bring my wife to the movies, because she can fit all of the candy and stuff.
CVS before AMC, man.
Right, of course.
CVS before AMC.
You know, it is kind of funny because CVS is, right, my movie theater, CVS is like 2 doors down. So we go there, I get the gummy bears for like $3 instead of $6 in the movie theater.
Yep.
We put it in my wife's pocketbook along with her cheap water compared to $3 you have to pay for it. And again, you're evading prices, I guess you could say. You're evading paying high prices. But, you know, this kid's pretty clever as well. Wow. How do you get caught? Oh, the crinkles when you're walking.
I guess he was wearing, I mean, he's got shorts on. I don't know. He must have had a sweatshirt and sweatpants on.
I mean, if I'm walking into a movie theater, I like to have a cup of coffee, especially if we're watching like an animated one or something that's tailored to my kid. You know, so I'll have the coffee here. I'll put the coat over it. There we go. I'm walking in. Because movie coffee it tastes like muddy water or turpentine. Now, this is how we do certain things today. When you look at how people were evading the law or getting away from it during this time period, this is an interesting one. You know, you had the little flask. I think that's what they call it. It's the first time I've ever seen one. You know, this lady's hiding it under her dress. You had the bootleggers as well.
Hiding alcohol in the leg of a boot. They would hollow out like cowboy boots or heels. You know, stuff liquor in there.
Imagination's the only limit.
Yeah. And we can't talk about like the elephant in the room with this picture.
Yeah.
The swastika on the floor. After we had found this picture and we realized it, I did some research into it. You actually see there all over the floor. This is actually a bar in New York City that was a pro-German, pro-Nazi party bar in the 1920s and early 1930s.
So we're going to see this as we're getting into the World War II unit, just to kind of refresh your memory. I think the big thing here is that when you're looking at smuggling when you're looking at smuggling or evading the law, your imagination is your only limit.
Yep.
I am glad this just popped into my head. I'm fascinated by this show on National Geographic where it's like to catch a trafficker, where they're catching people trying to traffic things into the United States, whether it be like, you know, drugs or any illegal products. I'm fascinated, I'm fascinated with how people try to get around the law. You know, cutting open suitcases and whatnot, putting it within food. So that really does, fascinating.
Or like me in high school when I'd have the textbook open, but really it was like a comic book on the inside.
Oh, sure.
And I'm reading like my Marvel comics.
I put the answers to tests. Well, I already
cut.
Yeah. You know, I put the answers. I know of people who put the answers to tests in their hats, so now all of a sudden, you have your hat on, and you're like, oh man, I just, and then you look, and then you put the hat back on.
Because we weren't given math formulas.
No,
we had to memorize them.
Right. I think this was something else.
Yeah.
Mr. Dolan busted me. He was easy on me though. But speakeasies as well. These were bars where they were illegal bars, kept secretly.
And you had to speak easy so the police wouldn't come by.
And
the one positive that really comes out of Prohibition
is
it cleans up those dirty, disgusting saloons. These speakeasies had to be on the up and up.
Yeah.
They had to be, professional, clientele,
or
clean,
look the part.
Right, look the part. and you weren't having these degenerates coming in and urinating on the streets and doing all these things, because that's going to draw attention to you.
Of course.
Yeah. So yeah, like the secret knocks, whatever it might be.
I mean, a lot of these speakeasies, they had to appear to be legitimate businesses, legitimate legal businesses at a certain point during the day, and then at night, now they can be
right. So you might walk into, let's say, Five Guys over here in Deer Park, and you can get your burgers and fries during the day, but you go around back, there's whatever the secret knock is, they let you in, and the basement is a full-fledged operational bar.
McSorley's Ale House in Manhattan.
Yes.
They are one of the oldest bars in New York City. They pretended to be a florist.
Yeah.
And they had the bars and whatever going on in the back. Again, really cool. This is actually out by me, and this gets us into the rum running. But here in Claudio's, still there. What would happen is, if you look right here, you have the water that's right nearby. So very, very easy to get booze or run booze around Long Island, since we are surrounded by water. So this restaurant here, you had a speedboat that would come right underneath this restaurant. Of course, there's some changes since the 20s. And right underneath there, there'd be a hatch, and they would unload the liquor in this rum runner boat, and then they'd pull away. And this is another way to kind of do this.
I forget the name of the company that made those rum runner boats. They purposely made motorboats faster than police boats.
And you had...
And they marketed it that way.
And you had certain boat companies that was like, you were going to go and make it... How fast does a Coast Guard boat go? Okay, good. Can you make mine go this fast? There's a lot of money to be made. Another good dive site. I have to go to this. It's only 90 feet. But, again, you talk about smuggling. This was a tugboat, I believe. They call it the Lizzie D. They often call it the Rum Runner as well. But this was a ship that sank right around that time period. On the manifest, it said that they weren't carrying illegal alcohol. However, divers have gone down and have found bottles of scotch on this. This is kind of silly as well. This is a song that's referring to Oh Doctor, but when you look about people getting around the law, we look at today, people getting marijuana for medical reasons. You had people who were trying to get alcohol prescribed to them for medicinal purposes. Catholic Church needed more and more bottles and cases of wine as well. There were lots of ways. And here's a prescription saying, hey, I need to get alcohol prescribed to me for anxiety. Well, I don't know what they came up with. But, you did have people that were going out. Your Prohibition officers that were smashing these
GIs,
kegs of beer and whatever. But this is pretty much how they got around it. You had your bootleggers, your people who smuggled liquor into the U.S., that you could see that bootlegging term being used on the streets when it comes to buying, bootleg DVDs.
They don't even know what that is anymore.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But you have your illegal bars, your speakeasies. Many were making alcohol in their own home. People kind of doing that today. It's just a hobby, making beer or wine.
Do you know what popular modern day sport comes out of Prohibition?
NASCAR. Yeah.
It was my car is faster than your car.
Yep.
Put the alcohol in my trunk. I'll smuggle it across the Canadian-U.S. border, and I'll evade the police officers. And out of that comes NASCAR.
Ultimately, this doesn't work. Why? Because sports are coming out of this. It's really not stopping drinking. And in 1933, they ratified it by passing the 21st Amendment. So you had the 18th Amendment that's going to ban alcohol. The 21st Amendment's going to say, hey, it's okay. My bad.
We'll show you some statistics how alcohol consumption dropped slightly, and then it slowly was on the rise. Crime skyrockets. During this time period. We're going to see the rise of probably our most infamous criminal mastermind, criminal mobster of all time, Al Capone. The original Scarface.
But this was one of these
not the say hello to my little friend.
Oh, yeah. But this is one of these social experiments that ultimately just fails. Absolutely fails. We're
good.
We're good. Thanks for watching, man.